Hello, my name is... Hello, my name is Jackson McMurray. Hello, my name is Jackson McMurray. I am a vampire.
A vampire.
A
Hi,
vampire.
I am Anna Maguire, and I'm a regular person.
Yeah.
Because that's what this movie is about. It's a parallel.
It's about... It's just like the movie. Anyway, this is No Nerds Allowed special episode.
And no nerds are allowed.
Right, yes. Yeah, uh-huh.
Wait. I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
It's okay. I don't know what we're supposed to say either. So this is gonna be something of a diversion from our typical No Nerds Allowed format.
It's me, Adeline McMurray.
Yeah, Adeline was tragically
Replaced by me.
killed by a vampire.
Yeah.
Killed by Adam Sandler's vampire.
Yeah.
Anyway, this isn't a good joke, and I don't know why I'm trying to continue it. Point is, I've got a substitute in today in the form of Anna Maguire.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce
It's me,
yourself?
Anna Maguire. Hi, I'm Anna Maguire. I'm on this podcast now.
Excellent. I was gonna say, what's nice about this is that like you are approximately like 3/4 of our listenership, so you don't really have to introduce yourself because it's just you that listens. So.
Well, I mean, what else do you want me to say though?
No, I mean that's fine. I wasn't trying to get on you about not doing a good job. I was just musing.
I just like is there other like introductory things that other people do?
No. We have absolutely no format on this podcast. That's why it's good.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've been beating around the bush a little bit. The movie we wanted to talk about today was Hotel Transylvania, which is sure is a movie. It's
okay. Actually, wait. Before we say anything,
okay.
I have to make a bit of a disclaimer. Sony Pictures Animation, if you're listening to this, please bear in mind that my opinions on your Golden Boy franchise do not reflect on my opinions of your studio as a whole. I would love for you to hire me. Thank you and good night.
My opinions do, though. My opinions do reflect on you as a whole, Sony Pictures.
This movie sucked.
Go fuck yourself, Sony Pictures. I can say that. So you didn't like it. You weren't a fan.
I will say it was about as bad as I was expecting it to be, and like no more, no less.
Okay.
It was yeah.
Look, there's not anything wrong with this movie, really.
Well,
oh, okay. You think otherwise. I don't know. To me as a viewer, I was just like, everything was like perfectly fine. It's like, yeah, most of these jokes are super not funny, but it's not like, I don't know, I'm not offended by this. I'm not upset that I'm watching it. I was like, that's fine. I'm not mad.
yeah.
I'm not mad about it.
I will admit I got kind of bored a lot of the time.
For sure.
It was, yeah. Where do we usually start with these? Oh, I thought it was going to be a musical because there was like 3 songs that were like kind of original, but they all only lasted like 30 seconds long.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of background I want to share on this movie. Hold on.
Okay. I should probably do that too because I know a bit about the making of.
Well, okay, mostly this is just from me looking it up on Wikipedia and taking a look at the production tab. But there's the most buck wild shit in it. I mean, there's just one thing, but are you ready for this?
Yes.
Hotel Transylvania was originally created by comedy writer Todd Durham, which he based on his book of the same name that he wrote. It then says, after creating the Bible for a franchise of several films, television series, video games, books, merchandising, a hotel chain, and a theme park, he took the whole package unsolicited to Columbia Pictures.
Oh my god.
And I guess that was enough to get the movie made. I guess that's what you really need to succeed in this industry, is just like plan for the hotel chain and theme park integrations early on.
Yeah, it's just planned for it to be the next Harry Potter.
Exactly.
Wow.
Like, can you imagine like being able to just walk into a studio like that and just be like, "Hey, what's up? My name's Todd.
I'm a random guy. This is my pitch Bible for the world's biggest franchise."
You want to know, have you ever considered a franchise of movies in which you could make a hotel chain based on it? Sony?
Yeah, because historically that has worked really well for places like Nickelodeon.
Yeah, it worked for Taco Bell. It could work for you, Sony. Hotel Transylvania. Have you heard about that? Have you heard about the Taco Bell hotels?
No, I have not.
I mean, it's just great. It's just great that it's a real thing. Hold on.
Are we gonna take a journey to? Are you gonna send it to me on Discord?
No, hold on. I'm looking at it myself. See, my way of thinking right now is just that I'm ready to go on some tangents because I don't really feel like I could talk about this for 60 plus minutes.
Oh my god.
Did you just Google Taco Bell Hotel?
I sure did.
Yeah, aren't they great?
What?
And the pillows look like sauce packets.
Why is this? Why did they do this?
The pool has like floaties that look like Taco Bell hot sauce packets.
Oh my god. Does it come with diarrhea?
I wonder though, for real though, I wonder what like the plumbing is like in that building.
Yeah, right?
Did they take any special precautions? Or did they just treat it like regular plumbing? God. I like to imagine the pipes in there are like the Burger King straws. They're just like 3 times as thick as any regular pipe should be.
To account for the Taco Bell.
Exactly.
Anyway, this is our podcast, Taco Bell Hotel, the show.
Taco Bell Hotel, the podcast.
Yeah, where we talk about the Taco Bell hotels.
Okay, you know what? This is in Palm Springs. That's in California, right?
No.
Where's Palm Springs?
Are you thinking of Palm Beach?
Yeah. Palm Springs is like part of the Southern California. It's in the Coachella Valley.
Okay, yeah, I don't know anything about SoCal.
So someday we're going to go to the Taco Bell Hotel. And we're going to reunite. We're going to reunite for Taco Bell Hotel, the podcast. We're going to record in the Taco Bell Hotel.
And we're going to talk about Hotel Transylvania.
Give it a third. So you're saying we just talk about the Taco Bell Hotel today, and then later when we're at the Taco Bell Hotel, we talk about Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, speaking of Hotel Transylvania.
So last fall, I went on this big trip to LA with this animation club at the University of Utah. And we went to Sony Pictures Animation, their studio, and I loved it. It was like easily my favorite tour that we went on. And they talked a lot about this movie because this is like their biggest franchise, or maybe it was now that Spider-Verse is a thing.
Right.
But they it's a really small, relatively new studio. I think their first movie was like 2003 or something.
Yeah, it was like, or I don't know. Let's do some fact checking. Hold on.
Yeah, there's that the one movie about the bear and the deer that has the one antler.
Fuck. Not Over the Hedge.
No, it's the one that everybody thinks is Over the Hedge.
Right. Hold on. But it has a name that's like Over the Hedge. What's it called? Open Season.
Open Season. Yeah. And then like the first movie was 2002?
2006.
2006. Right. Yeah. And
they
that
made
was
Peter
like
Rabbit?
What?
They made Peter Rabbit. Why is that under Sony Animation?
Oh. Well,
that live action
was like...
Peter Rabbit movie with Domhnall Gleeson.
Yeah, well, that must have been like partially them and partially just regular Sony.
Right. You want to know something fun about that movie? Apparently, in the climax of that movie, Peter Rabbit weaponizes Domhnall Gleeson's peanut allergy and just like obliterates him with peanuts. And my mom asked me about it like 4 times.
Of course she did.
She was just like, is that upsetting to you? And I was like, I don't know, not really. She was like, okay. Was it though? Does that make you feel weird at all that they did that? They killed Domhnall Gleeson with peanuts in that movie? I was like, I don't know. I'm not that bent out of shape about it.
It's a pretend rabbit. It's yeah, it's okay. Okay. But getting back on track, I loved the studio tour for this place. And they talked a lot about the Hotel T franchise because that was like their big money maker at the time. Mm-hmm. And like they put a lot of emphasis on animating differently, not like the visual style of the way that the art looks, but like specifically how things move. And I think that was the strongest point of this movie, because there was a lot of rubber hose, there was a lot of like 1940s feeling like animation in the way that the characters moved. Mm-hmm. And I was really into that. Obviously, that's a big thing for me. You can see it in their other movies as well. It's something that I haven't seen as much of in other places. Right,
and because they're responsible for like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and
which was extremely, rubber hosey.
Right. I'm looking at the list. God, there's not a lot to work with this filmography. Like, there's some good.
No, there's not.
There's some good nuggets you can latch onto, but Surf's Up is good. I like Surf's Up.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in a billion years.
I watched part of it the other day, and I want to finish it because it's just like, I don't know. It's honestly a pretty creative idea. It's like an animated movie shot like it's a documentary, which I just think is really funny on its own.
Yeah.
But like Shia LaBeouf is good in it, and Jeff Bridges is good in it.
Maybe we should do an episode about that.
Yeah, that could be our next one.
The Sony animation movies. Another thing about like the character animation specifically, and I think this was mostly the case with Dracula, is like the characters had really different walk cycles that I noticed. Like his head was never at a different level.
Right.
Which is like a thing for walk cycles, is like the head moves up and down because that's how like people move. But it was always just like flat, and his just like legs would do all of the work when you could see them. And that was, I think, a fun, character bit.
Right. No, absolutely.
Physicality and everything.
I was gonna say, I even made a note of that a couple times in my notes that I took.
Yeah. I get you.
But okay, here's my biggest takeaway from this movie.
What?
Is that like it's supremely by the numbers, right? Like, this story is like the most generic possible like children's animated film story you could possibly make. Which is like fine. Not every movie has to be like this radical
Spider-Verse.
departure from like generalized storytelling. Like, I'm not upset about it. But like the bits in this movie are just like so nothing. Like, there is
You mean the jokes?
Yeah, like there are so many jokes in this that are just like so spectacularly low effort. My favorite of which, just to cherry pick a really great one, is when they're trying to hide the human, and he like throws him into that suit of armor, and he's like in that living suit of armor for a while, and then he like gets out of it, and then like they leave, and they come back to the suit of armor, and the suit of armor goes, "Boy, that guy sure smelled." And they cut to the next scene.
Yeah,
and that's the whole joke.
Yeah. I was like, one of my like first notes on here is like, I'm already over the potty humor.
Right.
Because like I really have nothing like against like fart jokes and shit, as long as they're like actually funny.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't think this is like too dependent on potty humor. I mean, there
was a lot of it at the very beginning, and then it kind of backed off of it.
They gotta like hook the kids early so that they can be a little more highbrow for the rest of the time.
Yeah. Okay, here's one of honestly my main problems with the movie. There was
Okay.
so much emphasis on how dangerous fire is to monsters, right?
Right.
And like number one, I'm pretty sure the reason for that is because Dracula's house got burnt down when his wife died, which is
Right.
like a normal amount of fire danger for anything
Right.
that's just like alive. But also, the whole hotel was like built out of candles and fireplaces.
Right. No, I think what they were saying was like you're in the forest, and if you have like a big bonfire or something, it'll attract the attention of humans because it's like big and bright. That's what I thought they were going for.
Yeah.
Because
I
then when
guess.
the human, what's his name, Andy Samberg shows up when he sets the guys on fire because he sees the fire and he comes, and then Adam Sandler's like, oh, it's because of the fire that this human showed up. That's how this all works. These are the rules of the world, is that people see fire and they want to go towards it often.
Yeah. I guess that's valid.
See,
Okay,
what
but
this
also-
movie presupposes is that people, if they see fire in the woods, they want to go toward it.
Yeah.
That's what sets this movie apart from any others on the shelf, I think.
Also, like, why do humans hate monsters exactly? I mean, like, because I know in common folklore why people are afraid of Dracula, but like in this version, you can't have Dracula like actually eat people because it's like
Right.
children's media, and like I respect that, but like he's just kind of just a regular guy.
Right, because that's the thing, right? Like, monsters... There's a really specific reason that people don't like Dracula. It's because, like, surprise, Dracula's a pedophile and a murderer. That's, like, his whole deal. So, like, yeah, probably we should not like Dracula. But this movie is just like, oh no, Dracula's not that bad a guy. He just is doing his own thing. And it's like, well, then why... This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, it's like there was one example of like why people are bad, and it's like, oh, an angry mob shows up to their house to kill them or whatever for being vampires. But it's like,
Right.
okay, but didn't he say that he doesn't eat people though? So like,
Right.
so like why? And what's like, why is everybody else scared if like there's no? I would have liked to see like, I don't know, some vignette of everybody else's life and like their bad experience with humans.
Right.
Because like we got the one example and the rest of it was just like, oh yeah, it's kind of just a thing that we all know. We're not going to do any world building about it though.
Right. And yeah, this movie has a weird relationship with like the big ideas it kind of evokes, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's very much, it loves to like make jokes about like racism. But if you were to actually view this movie as like an allegorical statement about prejudice, it would just be really fucked up and super not good. So like it can't
Yeah.
decide whether it wants to like actually say something or just pretend like it's saying something for a second for the sake of a gag and then totally move on.
Yeah, there was like that one-off bit where the kid said something about like that's racist, and I was like,
Exactly.
"Ooh, I don't think you want to do that.
It's
in
like,
this
yeah,
movie,
no.
though. I really don't."
As soon as you say that word, when you evoke that specter, it taints everything, right? And that's part
Yeah,
of
it's like,
that's-
oh, now this is a racism thing.
Exactly. And like that's part of why I have such a weird relationship with Zootopia, is because it's like it's a super clear like allegory for like societal racism, right?
Yeah.
But like not every individual thing super locks up with reality in a really specific way. And so it just, there's a certain sort of dissonance to the metaphorical storytelling, you know?
Right.
Whereas this is like that turned up to a bazillion. Like,
Yeah.
there's just
It's like don't make this race related. Just like please do not. Just let them be monsters.
right, exactly.
Also, I felt super weird about the fact that they had Quasimodo in there.
Yeah, that was weird too, because like Quasimodo was just a dude, right? Like
Quasimodo is just like a disfigured man.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, Frankenstein I get, like, because even though that book is about how like, oh, Frankenstein's monster isn't actually the real monster, it was Victor the whole time. But like
Right.
I get the like the pop cultureization of Frankenstein's monster and like the movie from what the 40s or something.
I, Frankenstein, 2016's I, Frankenstein, is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, that one. That's the one. Nailed it. But like, it's so. That's Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's a weird choice to put in here.
Yeah,
That's
no,
an
I totally agree.
Extremely weird choice.
And it's just like, I don't know, this movie, like the collection of talent on this is weirdly confusing to me, because like it's pitched by this anonymous guy who just like wrote this thing and just walked into Sony Pictures and was just like, hey, check it out, I built a theme park in my brain, would you like to make a movie about it? And they were like, fuck yeah. So they're like, okay.
Here's a book with my entire imagination in it.
Right,
Just the
exactly.
whole thing.
My entire weirdly corporate imagination.
God, yeah.
And so it's like, cool, fine. And then they attach, I'm sure they attach Adam Sandler first, which is like, okay, like usually Adam Sandler kind of produces his own stuff, but he just wants to be attached to this, that's fine. And then for the director, they go to Gendy Tartakovsky, who's known for like making really like highbrow animated shows for Cartoon Network. And it's like, why? Like, what's going on?
Are you saying this isn't highbrow, Jackson?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a weird collection of talent that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Because it's not even like it's just Adam Sandler. It's like Adam Sandler's whole posse. You know? It's like him and Kevin James.
His entire squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This movie is weird.
But yeah, and it's like, I wrote down just a handful of gags that are just nothing. That are just nothing. Like, when all the little werewolf kids are running around and like peeing on stuff. There's that moment where this witch is like the janitor, I guess.
Oh, are you talking about the fucking sponge?
Yeah, and it's like
what
the sponge.
was the deal with that?
So she like gets out a sponge and just lays it down, and the sponge has a face on it, and it like smiles and sings a little song as it slowly soaks up the pee. And it takes like a solid 3 or 4 seconds, and it never comes back ever again.
No, they like lingered on it for way too fucking long. I wrote that down. I was like, piss sponge, what the fuck?
But like, there's so many that's just like, there's a moment where like Dracula's making an announcement and like a whole bunch of frogs come out of nowhere and make a little stool for him to stand on.
Yeah, that was also really weird.
You're just like, what is that? What is this? Why did you do this? That's not really a joke, and it's not quite like fun enough to be like a fun little set piece. It's just like this weird thing they decided to do.
And it was also like 2 inches off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, also that is true. So just if we want to go through the movie chronologically, right?
Yeah.
Like we start with like this whole backstory of.
Okay, wait. Can I say a word about the beginning part when it was like the montage of him like raising her?
Yeah.
That seemed exactly like every like first 5 pages that ends up on the cutting room floor. Like that's like. The scene that everybody writes in the first draft and then cuts for time.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think there's anything there that's especially important, right?
No.
Like, I think maybe the reason it's still there is because the gag of Adam Sandler singing that song and then making a crazy vampire noise in the middle of it was too good. And I suspect that Adam Sandler just thought that was really funny, so we had to keep the whole 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know, I'll admit, that's not a bad gag. That's one of the better jokes in the movie, I think. Do you disagree?
You know. I just don't have any feelings about it.
Okay.
It sure did happen.
Yeah. One of the things that I really like about this movie, it's just like a little thing that I actually really appreciate, is I love the way they animated like the flying when they're in bat form.
Oh, yeah. Or when they're, like, bouncing around when they're with, like, the purple smoke and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, there's this moment right at the beginning when, like, what's-her-name, Dracula Jr., turns into a bat for the first time. And Dracula's, like, flying around, like, behind her, being like, oh, okay, like, be careful, though. Where, like, he's, like, kind of flapping his wings, but then, like, for a second, his, like... He'll, like, go underneath, like, he's, like, waiting to catch her for a second, and then, like, go back to flying. And it's, like, a really... cool little bit of like character specific animation. I don't know, I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah, actually, like just all of the scenes that were really action heavy I enjoyed watching, because the way that their like limbs flail around when they're like running is
Right.
just like, it's just fun to watch. Like if you look closely at the characters' movements when they're going really fast or something,
Right.
it's always just kind of like funky.
Right. No, yeah, totally.
And I enjoyed watching that.
Here's another non-joke in this movie. When the werewolves pull up for the first time, their license plate says undead.
Yeah.
Real good joke. Real good one.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Because they're all monsters and many of them are undead, so the license plate says undead. That's very funny.
It's not like, it doesn't have numbers in it though. That's just what it says.
Yeah, it just says undead. There's literally no joke to that. It's nothing. If you made the E in undead a 3 instead, that would be like 25% of a joke. But it just says undead. There's nothing to that.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving forward from that, I think sort of the biggest like selling point of this movie is like the hotel lobby, right?
Yeah, the
Like,
set design was pretty fun.
It's just this place where there's like a whole bunch of like crazy monsters, and they all, because like the physical animation style is like one of the biggest selling points of this movie, and it's this area that we go back to over and over again where it's just like, here's a bunch of guys, they're all designed differently, and you get to kind of watch them move around and interact with each other, and that's pretty cool. Like, that's just all there really is to it. But it's like, I'm glad that they had sort of the foresight enough to like make that not just a one-off set piece, but like be a location
movie, like,
that we
it
return
comes
to
back over and over again.
Yeah. Because whenever you're back there, you're always just like, oh yeah, I get to look at some crazy monsters again. I'm always down to look at some crazy monsters
doing some weird shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a thought, and now I'm forgetting what it was. Oh yeah. One thought that I had while watching this, and this is like halfway through.
Right.
I think this movie like could be a lot better if it like just slowed down with the goofiness some of the times.
Right.
Because I love the like rubber hose influence and everything, and the slapstick and the exaggerated emotions and everything. But I think the moments that are actually trying to be sincerely emotional kind of suffer when it's like cranked up to 11 for the entire rest of the movie. Because like there are only a couple of times that we get to see Dracula act like a real person. And I think I would have liked to see him at a couple of other points, like with a little bit of genuine stress or genuine anger, or like,
oh yeah,
not like super exaggerated versions of that. Because like when characters that are that silly, like, try to suddenly be sincere when they're extremely silly for the rest of the whole time.
No, absolutely. Like that first time when we finally get to the moment where he like starts expounding about how his wife died and all that stuff, it like comes out of fucking nowhere. Like, they like walk in this room and Andy Samberg's like, oh hey, what's up? I do blah blah blah, and then is suddenly like, oh hey, I know that woman. She was in a castle where the love was so powerful that I could feel it even then. And then Dracula's like, oh, well, it's, had to be Adam Sandler, so it has to be horrible.
That's my wife.
That's my wife.
Yeah.
I can't do it without just sounding like an Italian person. Hold on. Hold on, I had to get.
Try again.
In it. I had to get in it. Ooh, that's my wife.
Good job.
I'm honestly surprised that Adam Sandler didn't say my wife at any point during this movie.
Oh God.
You know what? That would have been great.
It's gonna be in Hotel T4.
Do you think that this movie takes place in the same cinematic universe as Borat?
Yeah.
I do too. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, it does. But the moment that specifically I was thinking about is like the part when the kid is like first like walking around in the hotel lobby and he like shuts him in the closet.
Right.
I was like, okay, if he seemed like genuinely stressed out about like this kid being here, like we can also have there be goofs, but like, you know, sometimes there is comedy in like just the situation itself, and like it's still funny even if your character is like, oh my god, shit, fuck, what do I do?
No, yeah, no, I mean, if he had just been like, look, I'm gonna level with you, like, I gotta get you out of here because of this and that and the other and all that kind of stuff, but it also in a bad accent.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been just like that much of like, just establish him as like a real guy with feelings, you know?
Yeah. Because kind of the only times we got to see him with feelings was like around his daughter and like his dead wife.
Right, yeah.
But like we didn't really get to see that around any of like the other people.
Right, no, totally.
Yeah.
There's a line in this early on. So anyway, now he runs this hotel for monsters, and his daughter is coming of age. She's turning 118. Haha. And
I get it. It's like 18.
But she wants to like go out and see the whole world, but he doesn't want her to because he's afraid of people because they fucking killed his wife. But there's this great moment at the very beginning that's like weirdly the only like effective character moment in this whole movie, I think, where Dracula walks in and he like starts to say something like, oh, how are you excited for your big day? And then the daughter's like, please, Dad, let me speak. And I just thought that was so funny. Like, there's something so like pitch perfect about that. Like, it's not like he's like bulldozing over her or anything, but she's just like, Dad, let me speak. I thought that was perfect. I thought that was great.
Yeah. Oh, hey, also, did it feel to you like there were never stakes in this movie?
I mean, I don't know. I wanted the kid to not get discovered. I mean, because it's like the reputation of his hotel, right?
Yeah.
He's been human free since whatever dumb number they made up, 1969.
Yeah, that's when it was.
And which I wouldn't put it past this movie because there's a joke about the Invisible Man having a small penis in it. So
yeah, that was really weird. Yeah, that was super weird.
But like, I don't know, because it's like, oh, I've built this place. It's like the sanctuary, and I have a reputation to uphold. It's kind of like John Wick, right? It's like they have this hotel. And it's like you're cool, and like when you're on the grounds, everything's chill. But then like if people start to kill, then it's like, oh, can I even trust this hotel anymore? Right? Like,
yeah, I guess that's, yeah.
To me,
I guess
stakes...
like the only moment when I was ever like feeling any sort of like worry about the well-being of the characters was when he was like flying after the plane.
Oh,
because I was like, oh, this is really cool if they actually have him get like severely injured by the sun to like, you know, save his daughter's relationship or whatever.
Right, except that they
didn't really, yeah.
Yeah, they just made him like smoky, but they didn't do anything cool with like having like his strategies of not being in the sun. Like, we're working through it. We'll get there when we get there. I think we can talk about this a little bit later.
Are we going chronologically?
I mean, usually we do. We can just get there once we arrive at it.
All right, yeah.
I just think like I'm trying to describe how I'm feeling. I think that Dracula's like too convincing that first moment when she's like, "Oh, I want to go out," and he's like, "Okay, yeah, cool. I told you you could, and now you can. Cool deal." Like, I felt like I would have liked to have that telegraphed to the audience that he's kind of setting her up at first.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it makes him feel too cool at the beginning. Like, at first I was like, oh shit, this is nice. Like, he's just a cool dad. He's like, knows what's up and is doing the best he can. But then it's like, oh, but then he actually didn't. And I'm like, oh, well, fuck this guy then. Like.
Yeah, I would have. I would have liked to see him a little bit more, like, nervous going in.
Right.
Like, to that conversation. Because, you know, he's about to pull off this giant elaborate lie to his daughter.
Right.
Like,
yeah. But it's like, I don't know, it like sells you on the character in that moment, on basically his lie, right? They're lying to you as much as they're lying to the daughter. So that when it turns out that that's not it, I, much like the daughter in the film, am just mad. I'm like, oh, I thought Dracula was going to be a cool dad in this, but he's not, and I like the cool dad version of him better.
Yeah. Oh, also, the part when she was, like, surrounded by the, you know, zombie mob of disguised zombies, like, her reactions to that seemed way too toned down.
Right,
Because, like, that was supposed to be, like, a life-changing traumatic experience, but she was kind of like, oh, hey, can't we just all be friends? And that was just, like, her whole reaction. And totally. I would have liked her to, like, run away or, like, be actually scared or something. But she was just like, oh, no, this sucks.
Yeah, I don't know, this movie has such a... It's just so... I guess the word I would describe this movie as is just non-committal. Like...
Extremely, yeah.
They just don't want to do too much of anything, really. They want to, like, get in and get out and have some bad jokes and do the perfunctory amount of, you know, story and world building and get out of there, you know? Yeah. And it's just like, it's not like it takes a lot of creative energy to just be like, oh, and then, you know, it's this really dramatic scene that's really, really, like, heartbreaking for this character. But it just, like, they don't want to commit to the movie being too intense, right? Because they're just, like, they treat it, like, with such nonchalance. It's like, I mean, it just feels like a movie that's, like, made by people who are really explicitly like, oh, yeah, this is a kid's movie. You know?
Yeah,
like, they don't want to
put
anything too challenging in it or anything too intense or anything interesting in it really at all. They just want, like, a story.
They just want to appeal to the kids in the most baseline level possible.
Exactly. No, totally. They're not trying to do much of anything with this movie.
Oh, also, movies should just stop using pop songs. Like,
right.
I mean, like, you can use something if it's, like, you know, older, like 10 years or more older.
Right.
But if you use a pop song from, like, that year, by the time the movie comes out, it's going to be, like, a couple of years old.
Don't you love it, though, when Adam Sandler puts the earbuds in and it's playing LMFAO and he reacts like it's horrible? Because don't you just hate modern pop music? Don't you just hate it? Isn't it so funny that he does that?
That was the exact same song that they played later when everyone was like, oh, the human kid is cool, actually.
Right, yeah. Well, I'm sure it's because they're part of Sony's record company and they had to put the song in a flattering light in later if they were going to make that gag earlier.
Yeah, it's just like, stop. It's going to make your movie look so dated every time somebody does that.
Real rough. And yeah, I don't know. It's just like, I've talked about this with some other people before, but there's like this perfect period when something is like approximately like 6 to 8 years ago, where it's like not old enough to like have a sort of nostalgia throwback resurgence, but it's not like new enough to still be in your modern consciousness, where you can like hear a song and it just like blasts you back. And hearing that little bit of that LMFAO song was like that for me. I was like, fuck. I haven't thought about
I'm
LMFAO.
in high school again.
Yeah, I haven't thought about LMFAO in years.
And it's like, oh, wow, this just sounds just like 2011.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, then Andy Samberg's character shows up. And look, I like Andy Samberg a lot. He has zero funny jokes in this movie, though.
Yeah, it's true.
One time he says something about a guy trying to eat him at a Slipknot concert, and that's a little bit funny. But, like, outside of that, there's just not much of anything. And, like, I don't know, the whole movie is not, like, I wouldn't say any of it is, like, cringeworthy. It's just like not
It's
funny.
just not funny.
It's just
like
kind
of
nothing.
flat. Yeah.
Although I have to say, the gag where they like have the conversation in the revolving door that's spinning around super fast, I think that's super fun.
Yeah.
In terms of
funny.
like visual gags in animated movies, that's like up there. I thought that was really fun. Even though there's like nothing else on that same caliber in this movie, for that moment I was like, oh, that's a fun idea and well realized. That's cool and I'm into it.
Yeah.
The next thing I have written down is boy that kid smelled, when that suit of armor says boy that kid smelled. I can't get over that line. That's truly the laziest joke I think anybody's ever written.
Yeah, honestly though.
Also, okay, you know what? Okay, there's one moment in this movie that I thought was really, really funny.
Yeah.
And that's when they're showing like the bingo hall, and they're like turning the machine that dispenses the little bingo balls and their little skulls, and the woman takes them out and the little skull is just like, oh, 23. For some reason that killed me. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I can't describe why that was as funny as it is, but I was like, that just slayed me. I think that's so good. Also, don't you just love the running gag of that skeleton woman being sexually abused? Isn't that super funny?
God, it's so hilarious, yeah. I also love all of the nagging wife jokes.
Yeah, super good. Super cool.
Super love that. It's the best.
Because, well, I mean, I'm trying to think. Because the werewolves seem to be mostly on the same page. Oh, I get, okay,
guess so.
The Frankenstein wife is very much the nagging wife, though. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't do anything in the movie besides to be annoying.
Yeah, shrill and obnoxious. Yeah.
Right. You know what's also funny is that moment where Dracula is afraid of the kid trying to take out his contact lens. That's pretty funny also. I thought that was okay.
Yeah, that was okay. That was all right. That was another one of those moments that I felt should have had more weight to it.
Oh, yeah. That's fair enough.
That whole scene out there should have been more, like, sincere and an actual human feeling.
Right. Remind me what the actual context of that scene is.
It was like, he took him out there to, like, try and, like, mind wipe him so he'd leave.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I do want to give this movie credit for, though, is that the dynamic between those two characters, between Andy Samberg and Dracula, like, feels really natural, right?
Yeah.
Like, when they finally start to transition from, like, being enemies, quote-unquote, to, like, starting to kind of become friends near the end, it doesn't feel like, oh, and then something happened and now they're friends. Like, they have, like, genuine chemistry even when they're at odds with each other.
They have more chemistry than Andy Samberg does with the girl.
Okay, if you say so. I don't know. I didn't think the two of them were bad as an idea.
I mean, maybe it's just, like, they didn't get, like, as much screen time together.
Yeah.
And, like,
I mean, maybe it's just a bad movie is the problem.
Yeah, that's probably that, yeah.
But, so, like, when they finally start to, like, warm up to each other and start to enjoy each other's company, it doesn't feel, like, totally out of the blue, because they already have, like, a believable rapport even beforehand, you know? And then I think that takes a certain amount of skill of writing to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to talk about how when the guy brings Selena Gomez up on the roof, and she's like, I've never seen a sunset before. And he's like, well, have you tried standing in the shade and looking at it? And then that works, and it, like, changes her entire life.
Yeah, that was super weird.
And she's still looking at the sun. Like, you see the sun reflected in her eyes.
If she can see the sun, that means the sun can see her, and she's gonna get torched because she's a vampire.
And it's like, go ahead.
Also, like, I mean, I would have liked it better if it was like she doesn't actually like the sunrise because she's a vampire and she's allergic to the sun.
Right. And if he was like, oh, but actually it's super cool. Why don't we hang out in the shade and you can look at it? And she sees it and she's like, oh, you're right. This is cool. I see what you're saying. Like, that would be good. But, like, it's just like, have you tried shade? Did you ever think of that? In the 118 years you've been alive? Did you ever think, oh, maybe if I wanted to, I could stand in the shade and be outside? Like, what the fuck are you trying to tell us with this?
Yeah. It's like, no, they're cool as long as they're standing behind someone. Then it's all right.
Right.
The sun can't get you there.
Yeah. I also, okay, we've talked a moment about, like, when they reveal that, like, oh, humans killed Adam Sandler's wife and that's why he doesn't like them and all this stuff.
Yeah, because I never could have seen that coming. What a twist.
Right. But, like, they treat that scene so weirdly where, like, he shows up and you see the wife on the wall and you've seen her before in the movie. You've seen, like, pictures of her. So you know who that is. You're like, oh, that's Adam Sandler's wife. And then he's like, oh, I know who that is. She was this woman in this castle and this legend and all that stuff. And then Dracula's like, no, you see, that is my wife. And then he, like, tears down the curtain and it's like a big reveal. Like,
and then it's like, okay, but we already knew that.
But we knew that. Like, why are you treating this like you're revealing something to us?
It's
this
not
is
new information to us, the audience.
And even if we didn't recognize that as the wife, we haven't seen that painting before. It wasn't a mystery to us before 3 seconds ago, so it's not satisfying when you unveil it. Like, what are you trying to do here?
I also like the bit in the flashback, twofold, two things. One is, like, when he's like, I'll go out and talk to the angry mom, and then just, like, stands, like, in his doorway, like, hey, guys. But also, like, when the wife dies, and it literally has, like, the shot from my intentionally bad student film where, like, her hand falls on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
God. Because it's like, okay, how did she die then? Did someone, like, you know, stab her with a pitchfork or something? Or was it, like, the fire? Were there people already in your house? Like, what happened?
And they kind of imply that, like, vampire lore is BS, right? Because there's that moment where they're talking and he's like...
Which is boring, honestly.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I'd just be a regular vampire, that's fine. You don't have to subvert anything. You're not subverting anything else in this movie, so I don't know why you're trying to subvert traditional vampire lore.
Like, I'm okay with subverting traditional vampire lore if you're subbing it with, like, different vampire lore.
Or, like, something interesting at all.
Yeah, like, them having, like, strengths and weaknesses that are, like, different, like, weird vampire things. But if it's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm basically just a dude who lives forever and, you know, eats frogs.
Right,
and it's like, okay. And you can turn into a bat, which is cool, but it's like...
They're not, like...
Right.
They're not, like, replacing vampire lore with something. It's just, like... Instead of being allergic to garlic and being killed by a stake through the heart... It's not that. That doesn't happen. You're like,
no,
okay, cool.
Like, garlic doesn't kill him. It's just a normal allergy. And also, yeah.
I just want to say, not to be like the guy, this isn't me like proving how smart I am that I knew where the movie was going. This is more just me like demonstrating how totally rote the, like, just this movie is in general. Where like, they're at the dance and they're like dancing and having a good time and they kiss and then the dad shows up and I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to show up and be mad and she's going to start yelling at him and he's going to be like, but that's why I faked that whole village. And the music's going to stop.
Yeah, and all the people are going to turn around and look at him.
And they're going to look at him.
Like, what?
And the daughter's going to be like, what happened? He's like, but I just did it because I wanted to protect you or whatever. And then she runs away crying and he has to go off and figure it out. And like the instant Dracula showed up in that club, I like knew the entire way. Like I could have just skipped to the next scene. I could have been like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, same. I was like, oh, I know literally every like beat of this scene. I know exactly how this is going to play out.
Right. I also love when they go out in the real world and they discover that racism isn't even a thing anymore.
Yeah, it's like everyone's just chill. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm the real actual vampire Dracula. And they're all like, okay, cool. And I'm like, wow, so there really are just like no repercussions for any of the things you've been afraid of. It's just like, everyone in the world is just all right with it.
Right. That's how they resolved the conflict in this movie. They were just like, oh, but then it turns out that wasn't a thing.
We're just wrong.
Right.
Oops.
Did you like?
God.
Hey, I have a question. Did you like when he's chasing after him, and there was Twilight on the in-flight movie? Did you think that was funny?
Oh my God, that was so funny.
Because something about me that I like a thing about me is that I hate Twilight. I think Twilight's so stupid. I think Twilight's so dumb, and it makes me feel so good when I see people make fun of it, because like people don't understand that actually it's bad a lot of the time.
But here's the thing about Twilight, though. At least it does a couple of interesting vampire things.
Yeah, no, honestly, absolutely. Like, I want to read Twilight one of these days.
I actually have heard that the books are like genuinely really bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But
like the writing is just garbage.
No, yeah. I mean, obviously earlier that was me doing a bit because we all just love to hate things that teenage girls like. But like, I was really astonished when I finally actually watched Twilight how bad it is. Like, it's truly, like, just as a movie, like, it feels like somebody who doesn't know how to make a movie is trying to make a movie.
Okay, so I know Vampires Suck is also not funny, but like
Right.
there's the one good joke in that movie where it's like the sequence of shots of her in the car, and she has that cactus that keeps getting bigger in every shot. And then she takes it out of the car, and it's like the size of an exercise ball. It's like, it's actually pretty funny.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. But like, I can't get over it because it's not even like, oh, it's poorly structured and I don't care about the characters. It's like Edward's pale face makeup doesn't go onto his neck. Only his face is pale. Like, what the fuck?
That's part of being a vampire in the Twilight universe.
Right.
The vampirism it stops at your neck.
And it seriously, when you're watching it, it feels like Troll 2 or like one of those like famous like incompetent movies.
Oh my God.
It's just like, what are we even doing here? Like, how much money did you spend on this?
They had to save money to animate all the wolves.
I guess so. No, but there aren't even animated wolves in the first one.
I mean, I know. I mean, like in the other ones.
Okay, fair
They're
enough.
like, okay,
I've only
if
seen
this
the
makes
first
any
one.
money, we have to stockpile all of the money so that we can like animate the wolves.
I've heard from certain people that the last two Twilight movies are actually kind of cool in their own way. Like, the only thing I've seen of those movies is like the baseball scene. Yeah, that seems actually kind of fun. I'm actually down with that. I'll
yeah,
fuck with
I mean,
that scene.
that one was pretty all right. I thought it was kind of fun to watch.
Because yeah, it's one of those series that like has a new director every movie, just because it's a disaster and nobody can like make more than one of them.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It's just one of those things that's like, so I've only seen the first one, and I'm really curious to see all the other ones because like, there's got to be so many different creative voices chiming in on this that eventually something good has to happen, right? Like, how could like this many different people all have exactly zero good ideas? Like, just law of large numbers, there's got to be a good one in there, right?
At least one.
But okay, so I want to talk about like the lack of real consequences when Dracula decides to just like go outside.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of the things that they were afraid of, like all of the things, including the sun, turned out to actually not be a big deal.
Right, exactly. Like, and he's like, to me, it's like a slam dunk for like a great animated film sequence, right? Like, you have a guy who's a vampire, he can't go to the sun, he's trying to catch up to an airplane. He's like trying to like follow in things' shadows. He's like flying underneath a big bird for a while. He's like finding all these like goofy and creative ways to get out of the sun while he's trying to catch up to this airplane that's about to take off.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many cool and creative ways that I can come up with just off the top of my head to make that like at all an interesting sequence.
Yeah, and then you could have had like the emotional moment where he's like on the front of the plane getting roasted by the sun and he's like dying as he's conveying this message.
Right.
And like, that would have been great.
It's just like, and I mean, like I said, it's just so non-committal. It doesn't want
like nothing happened.
Challenge you on anything at all. It's like the decision they made for that sequence was that he is smoking.
Yeah.
And then there's this. Then when he comes back at the end and they all meet up, there's this line where he's like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm just a little sunburnt." And he literally looks like he's just a little sunburnt.
Yeah, like it's like the only thing that's like burnt is like his cape.
Yeah, it's like he's got some holes in his cape and there's like some brown smudges on his face, and it's like, yeah, literally, like that joke
Literally,
doesn't
like
work.
nothing happened. Like you could just go out in the sun if you wanted.
Yeah. But like I said this earlier already, but like the way they animate the bat flight is really cool, where it like it's not just him like flapping his wings super hard, how he like feels like he's like pulling himself forward and like alternating between different like wing movements. Like you really feel that he's like fighting for every like inch he gains on the airplane, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's a really tactile bit of animation in terms of just like feeling like the air force against him, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the animation itself in a vacuum is super, super good. It's just like, you know, the story sucks.
Right, just like there's nothing to latch onto here, like absolutely nothing. I also think it's funny when they sing a song at the end about
it's the whitest rap I've ever heard in my
singing.
entire life.
But what cracks me up is that Andy Samberg's verse, him a professional, like one of the most popular comedy rappers on planet Earth, Andy Samberg's verse is like 10 times funnier than any of the other ones, and it's not even really that funny.
Yeah.
Like, he says something about, I don't even remember what the verse was, but he says something about like the way that Nala looks at Simba in The Lion King, which I thought was really funny. And it's like, clearly Andy Samberg came up with that. Like, that's good. It feels like an Andy Samberg lyric. And
yeah,
the rest of it's
it feels
just
like
nothing.
a Lonely Island bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But I love, like, them all being, like, impressed with Dracula's rapping when it's like, wow, this is, like, embarrassingly white.
I know, it's so good.
And the, like, crazy auto-tune.
Yeah. It sounds so bad. The song is produced so poorly. And you have, like, Selena Gomez, professional pop star, who, like, whenever she sings, it's not, like, mixed well. So it's just, like, her being like, and then you do the zing and everything's good, hooray. And it sounds just like not at all like anybody who's good at singing. And you're like, you are a multi-platinum selling recording artist. Why do you not sound like a person who knows how to sing? Like,
God, I love when B tier animation movies like end the movie on like, and now everyone sings a song, and it's like, okay, why?
Well, it's because we live in this weird world where like Shrek did it, and everybody has to do everything that Shrek did.
Yeah.
Like, the Shrek is for some reason now just the template for every animated movie that's not, like, good, I guess.
Which is hilarious because the first Shrek is, like, fucking great.
Exactly, yeah, and it's so weird.
That movie's fantastic.
Like, yeah, like, I've heard, because, I don't know, everything has to be so, like, winking and, like, not cynical, but, like, self-referential now. Because Shrek was so huge. Like, Shrek was the first person to be, besides maybe, like, Aladdin, kind of. But, like, Shrek was the first animated movie that was like, oh, we know we're an animated movie, we're gonna make fun of animated movie tropes. And now we live in this weird world where, like, Wreck-It Ralph 2, they're like, we're just gonna say a whole bunch of Disney princess tropes, and that's a joke, I guess. Like,
yeah. Did you watch the Lindsay Ellis video on that?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. It was really good.
But yeah, I don't know, like it's weird to think about like just how much it's not even necessarily like just this sort of natural like trend in like animated movies. It's to Shrek. They're just doing Shrek. Like, I don't know why Shrek has become like the cultural like centerpiece for all animated movies going forward.
Yeah. I
also like when over the credits they play like all this like gorgeous concept art from what is clearly an entirely different movie than the one that we got.
Well, it probably wasn't concept art. I mean, I've seen like most of the concept art. It was probably just like separate animation for the credits sequence. But But it reminded me a lot of this one animator named Iwerks, who worked for Disney for a while and had like this really distinct style. And like if you look him up, you'll be able to like see it in that really stylized 2D that was at the end, which fucking ripped. And I loved that. I also muted it though because I didn't want to listen to the song.
No, but I didn't even mean that, because that's its own thing. I mean, like, after the, like, credit sequence when it's just, like, the scrolling credits, and, like, in the background they put in all this, like, gorgeous, like, lush green, like, weirdly minimalist concept art with, like, the characters in it. And you're like, where's that movie?
Oh, I didn't actually see that. I was so ready to be done at that point, then just, like...
No, yeah, seriously. It's, like, it's just completely... It's seriously, it looks like Star Wars concept art. It's just like this gorgeous, like, it's painted, like, landscapes with, like, small characters in them that are, like, the characters from the movie. So, like, clearly this was a part of this at some point, but it's just like, what happened? Like, why did it turn out like this?
Marketing happens.
I guess so.
No, I've actually seen some of that concept art. There's some, like, really cool concept stuff for this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, concept art is always cooler than the final product because they have to, like, I mean, like, the marketing department happens and they have to make it, you know, kind of more sanitized than the, like, the art people want it to be. I mean, you can see this with, like, almost every movie. Like, the concept art is, like, amazing and beautiful and just not... I mean, if you've seen it for Frozen,
right?
Like,
but I don't even necessarily mean like, oh, why doesn't it look exactly like that? I just mean that like, it's just like fundamentally like it just feels like a different tone, right? Like,
yeah,
it doesn't seem at all, because they're just like, I mean, like I said, there's just these like locations, like the characters aren't like part of it. They're just like these like beautiful like landscapes and like shots of like villages, and it's all like really green and lush, and it just totally is like totally incongruous with everything in this movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, final judgments on Hotel Transylvania.
Not great. Not stellar.
I mean, I don't know. I stand by what I said, that it's like, it's not offensive. I'm not mad about it. And like, there's just nothing there. There's just absolutely nothing there.
Is vapid the right word to use?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. 'Cause yeah, it just didn't take any risks at all.
Yeah.
It took like a negative number of risks.
Right. So, hey, Anna, do you want to hear a 5-star review of Hotel Transylvania?
Yes, I do.
Okay, this is a 5-star review by Letterboxd user Jane, who says, I'm gonna yell. I've watched this like 3 times this weekend, and every time I see that scene of Dracula talking about what happened to his wife, oof.
Same.
She's gonna yell.
I am also going to yell.
Anyway, my name's Jackson McMurray.
My name's Anna Maguire.
And this is a weird No Nerds Allowed. I just like the idea of somebody watching this movie more than once in 2 days.
You know there are some parents out there that are doomed to that fate, though.
I know. I'm just imagining some parent who feels this way. It's just like, God damn it, I fucking love this movie. And every time they're like 6-year-old is like, can we watch the monster movie? They're like, fuck yeah.